Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. I'm so happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and if you're joining me for the first time, welcome. This is where we talk about all things that pertain to emotional eaters, people who struggle with food and weight and who just can't eat one. So there's no such thing as one in our universe, right? So that's certainly true for me. I was 50 pounds overweight on account of being an emotional eater, really a food addict. I was on the top end of that emotional eating spectrum. If you want to know where you are on the spectrum, by the way, go to healyourhunger.com, my website, where I have a quiz, and it'll tell you exactly where you are on the spectrum, whether you're an emotional eater or an actual food addict. But I digress. I'm really excited about the show today. And just before I get into this topic, I want to also invite you to the Heal Your Hunger Tribe. It's a group on Facebook that's private and it's for us only. Those of us who know what it's like to be powerless over a Twinkie. So jump over there. And if you're a health nut, you can translate into being powerless over a muffin at Whole Foods, okay? So anything carby and sugary, I call it ooey gooey and chewy. This is the tribe. This is where we hang out, because people who aren't like us, they don't get it. They don't know what it's like. They don't understand why you can't just eat one, why you can't moderate, okay? The favorite M word for people who don't get us. So this is where we go and hang out, where we're amongst our kind, so we don't feel so strange and different, and we talk about how to heal, because that's really obviously the most important thing, is that we identify with each other and we have a place where we can have camaraderie in dealing with this condition, but we also have an actual solution, the Heal Your Hunger solution for overcoming emotional eating. So jump over there, type in Heal Your Hunger Tribe on Facebook, and join us. Now, for today's topic, this came up actually when I was flying home from Tampa this past week, and I was on the plane and I was in midair. It was a long flight. I had to go from Tampa to Chicago to LA, and I don't mind flying. I actually like, having time to work and chill out and, not have to answer phone calls or do any housework. So anyway, I was flying and I was okay with that. But I was on the internet. I was doing some work. I had Wi-Fi. I had purchased Wi-Fi. And I got an email while I'm up in the air, and it was from my bookkeeper. And my bookkeeper wrote to me, and she's like, "I'm sorry, but I have to end our, working relationship." And she said, I make more money now on an hourly rate, and it just doesn't behoove me to keep working for you for the rate that we'd established. And so she said, I have to move on, and I'm telling you, at first glance, I just was struck with terror, absolute terror. I thought, oh my God, this is terrible news. I can't handle this right now. I need her. She does such a good job for me. I'm not a numbers girl, it's just, crunching all the numbers and getting everything, the profit and loss and everything squared away for my business is not my forte. I'd much rather be talking to you here about emotional eating. So I was struck with a lot of fear and a racing mind that just started awfulizing. What's this going to mean for me? How I'm going to find a new person? You can't just put an ad out for bookkeeper because you don't want people knowing your business, literally, unless you trust them. So it has to come through a referral. And what am I going to do about that? Where am I going to get this referral? So on and on and on, this onslaught of negative, terrified thinking, fevered imagination about all the bad things that are going to happen on account of my bookkeeper sending me this email that she's quitting me. Not to mention feeling a great sense of rejection, right? So here she is, we've had a year together and she's quitting me. Like, what did I do wrong? We always like to internalize. So what did I do wrong? How did I fail in this relationship? And Granted, I did do some things wrong. I'm disorganized, and I didn't always get back to her emails right away when she needed for me to, look something up or find some statement. I procrastinated, so I wasn't right on it. So I'm thinking, I did ruin this relationship. It's my fault she's leaving. If only I'd been a better client. So that, on top of all the other, thoughts about the bad things that are going to happen because my bookkeeper's leaving me. So the topic of today's show is how to handle big blows without binging, okay? And if you're an emotional eater, you know what I'm talking about here, because it's when we get news that's scary to us. And I totally get that my bookkeeper quitting me is not like catastrophic, okay? But, that doesn't matter in the moment. Most of the things we binge over, most of the things that trigger us, they're not catastrophic, right? They're events, they're information, they're situations that strike us and instill fear, okay? They incite fear in us. So it could be a little thing, like my favorite lipstick, like, just went down to the bottom. I can't scrape out anymore. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what, to what degree the news is bad. It's usually not catastrophic. It's usually not a death. It's much more minor than a death or losing a job. It's some, again, a sense of rejection from somebody who might not even be rejecting us. My bookkeeper didn't necessarily have anything to do with me, but I took it personally and I felt rejected. So big or small, things that come through to us that feel like big blows. And that's the point, is it can feel like a big blow. We interpret it as a big blow, and that's where all hell breaks loose. That's when we start comforting ourselves with food. Now, I was on the plane, and I wasn't, by the grace of God, I wasn't driven to eat over this news, but it did occur to me that this is the type of news that might have sent me over the edge in the past, And why? Because it rocks my world. It makes me feel insecure. It threatens my sense of security, my sense of stability. But the real truth is, it makes me afraid. It makes me feel afraid. And anything can make us feel afraid. Anything can make us feel like, our world is rocked. And emotional eaters are typically fearful. I mean, we are fearful, and I say inordinately fearful. We have more fear or more reactions of fear than your average person. That has been my experience over the past 30 years of researching emotional eating and addictive tendencies. Emotional eaters, of all the addictive people in the world, are probably more fearful than other addicts, and certainly more than your average human being. Why? Well, I think we're kind of wired. Maybe our literal physicality is one that's wired towards anxiety more than your average person. That could have been learned behavior. We might have had, our mothers might have been nervous Nellies. We could have grown up in a home that was unstable, and it sort of wired our nervous system for anxiety and fear. Trauma, stress, that could have been the way we got wired, for just a nervous disposition, or literally we could have inherited it. So I find that emotional eaters tend to be more fearful. Our minds race, right? And we awfulize. We think of all the awful things that might happen. So this is what makes upsetting news so triggering for us. And so I really want to just unpack this and help you get to the point where you're not triggered, okay? Also, as emotional eaters, we like things to always be happy, happy, happy. I say the happy, happy high notes. I certainly do. Like, I want everything to be smooth, my life to go along in perfect order, no upsetting news, no curveballs, no problems, and certainly no extra work. So I don't like to work. I don't like to work hard. I don't like curveballs that cause me extra work. I don't want any problems. I don't want things to go wrong. I don't want to be inconvenienced. I have a little bit of a princess complex. I'm the youngest child. I think that's where that came from. I was a little spoiled. I don't want to be anybody to be mad at me. That's a big one, right? So we have this kind of fantastical thinking. We kind of want to live in la la land. And this is where the emotional eating comes from also. I know for myself, I ate to cover over the problems, to cover over negative situations so I didn't notice them, so I could live in denial. I wanted to live in la la land, and food sort of softened the edges of in my life. Anything that was sharp and pointy and hurt, I would soften that with food, with my favorite carbs and sugar. Sugar, fat, and starch, my favorite 3 food groups. So this tendency of emotional eaters to want things to be happy, 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 to not want to feel anything uncomfortable, to avoid uncomfortable feelings, that's what gets us into so much trouble. When it doesn't go my way and it's uncomfortable, that's when I would turn to food. So do you have this tendency yourself? Do you notice this in yourself? Is what I'm laying down what you're picking up? Okay, so do you panic? Do you often eat or binge out of feelings of panic and anxiety? And you might not be aware of it right now, but after hearing this, you might start to pick some of these things up and see that this is indeed a pattern for you. Blowing things out of proportion, being very black and white, like if something bad's happening, like it's going to hell in a handbasket, like the world is coming to an end. All this very dramatic, emotional response to things, which isn't really a response, it's really a reaction, right? So we're reacting to bad news and we're going berserk. We're just diving for the food. Like, let me run for cover right now. Let me grab some chips. Let me order my favorite food at the restaurant. Let me somehow anesthetize my feelings. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about experiencing feelings and then running for cover or for an anesthetic, a painkiller in food. So that's really what I want to bring your attention to and see if we can have a different response going forward. So the most important thing, well, I'll talk about what I did on the airplane. I mean, on the airplane, when I got that news and I went into, reaction mode right away of this is the worst news in the world and I can't possibly live through this. I mean, this is literally how I've thought my whole life. I had those feelings of this is terrible and what am I going to do? Self-pity, woe is me. And what I do now, very quickly, this is what I didn't used to do, which is how I ended up overeating, but what I do now, thank God, is I start to talk to that panicked person. And I reason with her. She's hysterical, she's in reaction mode, and I start to calm her down by saying, there are no problems. Like, this is not a problem. This is not apocalyptic. Everything is okay. There are no problems. So it's like a reality check for myself, right? Like I'm checking in with the truth. My head is telling me lies. My head is telling me lies, and this condition is a mental one where we talk shit to ourselves. We tell ourselves lies. That's the problem. Our problem is not food. Our problem is what goes on between our ears. So I talk truth to this scared little child who has lies running through her head. And I say, look, the reality is losing your bookkeeper is not the end of the world. It's going to be okay. There are other bookkeepers in the world. There are people who can connect you with those bookkeepers. There are no problems. This is not a problem. This is not cause for alarm. And when I talk to it's like I have to almost shake myself into reality, and I have to realize this is not a big deal. And it helps me to do that, and I really encourage you to try it. Like, take your adult self and have her talk to your child self. It might not, when you're in reaction mode, it's not always easy to do this, okay? So this is going to take practice. You're not going to get it right away. But try to see the truth of the situation, because right now, When you're in hysterical reaction mode, it's hard to see the truth from the false. But try to reach for truth, some kind of stability, and recognizing that things are actually okay. Reality check yourself, reality check your life. Do you have food to eat? Are you in danger? Do you have a roof over your head? Is there money in the bank? There are no problems. This is not a problem. This is a challenge, maybe. This is a situation to walk through, but it's not the end of the world. So that helps me tremendously. But if you are very anxiety prone, and there are things you can do as well, like calming techniques, like breathing techniques, just taking a deep breath, just breathing 3 times in and out, hearing yourself breathe, taking a big breath, holding on to that breath, and then exhaling. Breathing is so good for your nervous system and helping you calm down. EFT, if you are a tapper, if you know how to tap the meridian points, those points that can help calm you down. That's a great technique for EFT. I've seen it be most helpful for people who are fearful or have anxiety, because it's something physical you can do right in the moment. You start tapping, you're hitting those points in your body, and it's helping you calm down. Just the act of doing it, remembering to do it, and then literally what it's doing physiologically in your body to calm you down. Visualization, like just closing your eyes and visualizing, a placid lake, a beautiful scene in the mountains. Something that's really beautiful and calming. These are different things you can do to self-soothe. I highly recommend doing whatever helps you. Helps you balance. Sometimes picking up the phone and sharing with a friend your news so somebody else's, sanity can interrupt your insanity. Just hear it, somebody else doesn't have the same fear. They can see clearly that this is not truly life-threatening, and they can talk you down off the ledge. That can help you. Also, writing is something I often recommend to clients. It's not the thing anybody really wants to do. Everybody's like, I'll do anything but write. And that's because there's so much that gets revealed when we write. When we start writing, like literally listing our fears, we can see what drives us, what fears are really under the surface driving us. And then once we see it, we can heal it. You can't heal what you're not willing to face. So that's so important. You can't erase what you're not willing to face, just to put into a rhyme. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, which is so important for really combating, the triggering effect of big blows, is to start your day with getting centered. Now, if you know anything about my work, you know that being centered is so important to overcoming emotional eating. Like I could not live in a thin body if I didn't devote my mornings to a centering practice. I meditate, I pray, I read spiritual literature. These are the 3 major things I do. I walk and I pray out loud. Put my earbuds in and have a little talk with God. These things all support me and help me. Writing as well when I'm jammed up. So the point is, getting centered in the morning is putting money in your bank that you can draw on through the day. This is why it's so central to overcoming emotional eating. They're just good ideas to other people. Like to other people who aren't emotional eaters, meditation's a great idea, and it can help them with a lot of different, health. It has health benefits and other benefits, but they don't need it to not overeat. But I actually depend on meditation and prayer and writing and reading to actually center me, so I have something to draw on when I'm afraid. Okay, I wouldn't be able to reason myself down. I wouldn't be able to have the adult conversation with my out of control child if I hadn't have had centered, if I hadn't have had whatever, if I hadn't centered myself first thing in the morning. Okay, so that centering practice is vital for me, because otherwise I'm hysterical, otherwise I'm in trigger mode, otherwise I'm reacting, and that I'm going to ricochet from one stress to another, and food will be a part of my day because that'll be what I'll depend on to slow me down, to calm me down. That's the point. We use food to calm ourselves. So much of the time, that's really what's happening, is we are calming our anxiety by eating. Eating slows us down. We have to breathe in order to eat. We have to chew. It literally physically slows us down. And of course, we're hooked on carbs. Like, we reach for carbs. Carbs give us a serotonin effect. So we're using food as a way of calming ourselves. But if you start the day with other calming practices, and you get centered and still and quiet, and it's like you connect with that center is going to be with you to draw on all throughout the day when you're stressed out, big blow or not. Okay, so that's what's so important. So I hope that you're hearing me. Emotional eaters must have a better way to go. Food cannot be our knee-jerk, solution when we have bad news. When we have upsetting news, when we get startled, when we feel afraid. We've got to find a better way. And my experience is, healthy ways such as getting centered, breathing, tapping, things that can help us, especially talking to ourselves, being a parent to ourselves, being a parent to that scared little child, learning how to talk her down and help her know she's safe. These are all things that I do and must do in order to avoid, being triggered and just unconsciously ending up in the food. Also, just to bring it back around to my original story about my bookkeeper, there's actually a happy ending there. And I think it has a lot to do with my calming strategies, so I didn't go off the rails with the bad news. So after talking myself down, after having perspective, realizing the world wasn't ending, I had an inspiration, and that's that maybe there's a workaround here. Maybe there's a way to retain her. And so I wrote her back and I said, I'm so disappointed to hear this news. If there's anything I've done to make it, not a good experience for you, and that's the cause of your moving on, please let me know. I would so love to amend my behavior in such a way that it's an enjoyable experience for you. And if there's any way, you can still fit me in, I surely want to find that way. And she wrote back, and she had originally told me she was leaving because she's, gets more money per hour from these other clients, so it's not worth her time to keep working with me, very bluntly. And she came back and she said, no, it's not you. She said, I literally, it's a monetary decision. She said, I don't want to shake you down. She said, I could fit you in during the weekends, but it would have to be at this rate that I'm getting paid from these other clients. And I went back to her and I said, how many hours do you spend on my account? And it's about 4 a month. And she said, there's actually ways to cut down the amount of time that I spend. If there's some different tasks I do now that you could take on, and let's talk about it. So we had a meeting, and she gave me a list of things I could do, and to pick up the slack so that she works fewer hours at this higher rate. So I'm keeping her. That's the good news at the end of the end of the story is it's a happy ending. I get to keep her, and we're gonna both work on keeping the hours down so I can afford to keep her. And I don't have to go find a new person, and I don't have to, go through that slog of training somebody. And she knows my account, she knows my business. It's so much better to keep her, even though I will be paying more money. So anyway, all's well that ends well. But I don't think I would have had the inspiration to go back to her and see what we could do to come to a different agreement had I not calmed down, had I not been rational and had space for God to come in and breathe inspiration into the situation, and for me to act on that inspiration and just put it out there. What can we do? How can we keep working together? So I love that. I just love that, when we get out of reaction mode, we can respond. We can respond with insight and wisdom, and things can work out, for everybody's highest and best good. So I hope this is helpful to you. Handling big blows isn't easy. It's not fun, but they're feelings. They're just feelings. That's really what we're talking about. We're talking about uncomfortable feelings that no, we don't want to feel. Who would want to feel it? But when we're willing to feel it, feel, deal, and heal, then we no longer have to be owned by anything that comes down the pike. So thank you. I hope this is helpful. Make sure to jump over to the Heal Your Hunger Tribe and share about this. If you've got some ahas from listening to this today, jump in there and let me know. I'd love to hear about it. And also, we've got some great guests who pop in there and share their wisdom as well. So I'd love to have you join us there. Thanks so much. I love you. I will see you on the next show. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.